So hello. As I will say, good evening. It's evening here while we're recording, but hello and welcome to episode 2 of Hull Seahawks Behind the Curtain. I'm Connor Lynn. You may know us from the Hull Seahawks live streams or Beverly FMs across the pond. I'm joined by Martin Cattle, my co-host and co-commentator here as always.
Absolutely. I'm buzzing to get episode 2 underway.
We've also got Matty Davis, head coach and GM, with us as often as can possibly be here on this podcast. Obviously, Matty's been a huge part of getting this underway. Excited to have you on board again for episode 2, Matty.
Yeah, cheers, lads. Good to always be here, have a chat. Think people are getting a bit sick of my voice now, but hopefully we'll get a lot more, different people on, and be nice to hear from Geordie tonight. Change it up a little bit, get the Scottish on here.
It certainly will be, and as I say, our netminder Jordan McLaughlin, also obviously club and fans player of the season for 2022-2023. Jordan McLaughlin joining us. Thank you very much, Jordan, for being part of the Hull Seahawks podcast. Pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's good to be here. It's good to have a wee chat, especially with Matty.
And of course, there's so many fans looking forward to this. They just want to get stuck into all things Seahawks. They want to hear what Jordan's got to say as well. So we'll jump straight on in. So I want to start off with Jordan, of course, as our featured guest here for the evening. We want to start off by talking about last season. Of course, it was a strange season, a very, very tough season for the Hull Seahawks, but you were a major part of all the things that went right last year, is what a lot of Hull Seahawks fans would say. I just want you to have a reflection on the season itself, both for the club and individually for yourself as well, of course. Throughout the season, really made that starting Netminder jersey your own. And a lot of the fans in Hull really, really grew, to love you and, respect your performances. And, they're so excited to have you back. So I'm sure they want to know how you thought your season went.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to go into too much depth about it, but it was a tough year for all of us. The whole kind of club. It was obviously the first year, so kind of knew things were going to be a little bit tricky at times. But yeah, there's talk going for hours about how the imports went here and we were short of guys and stuff like that. But yeah, it was tough, but it was also good because I think we've learned, the guys that have stayed for this year, like going into next season, we've learned a lot from last year, and we'll make sure that these kind of mistakes don't happen again. For me personally, it was a good year. It was kind of the first year I'd really kind of had a starting role. Obviously, being in the elite league, you're not going to be a starter. You're on the bench most of the time. So, just kind of learning to be a starter again and like playing pretty much every week, week in, week out, just kind of getting used to being consistent again. That was kind of the biggest kind of learning for me, was just kind of finding that consistency and trying to keep it, my performances as good as they can be throughout the whole year, which I felt like on the whole I did all right. I had a few howlers here and there. I'm sure Matty's probably swore at me a few times on the bench and that, but yeah, no, it's been a tough but a good year. I think we've learned a lot from it. I think will only help us in the future getting better.
Of course. I just want to say a couple of performances stand out. A few special moments for Hull fans, of course. Particularly one with that game against the Bees where you recorded the first shutout. I'm sure that sort of brought a smile to your face and to everyone back home and in the locker room too. A few fans have asked me, so we've not included it in the Q&A, but what did it feel like to get that first shutout for the franchise? Of course, that's going to be a record that can't be broken.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's something cool to have. Obviously, no one can say that. Like, I can only say I've done the first shutout for the Seahawks, so that's pretty cool. To be honest, I didn't really realise the buzzer was about to go in the game because you can't see the score clock from the net. So I had no idea that I'd really done a shutout until it happened. I was like, oh shit, not let a goal in yet. And then like obviously all the boys were like jumping at me. And so yeah, no, it was cool. It was good to have, but yeah. Hopefully I can do it a lot more this year.
I'm going to throw this one to you now then, Matty, then. So I want, in your words, to talk about Jordan and why he deserved his many awards because of the season he had.
Oh, I mean, I could go on all night about the whole situation and how it, came about with Geordie. But I think, look, I think for me, it was I wanted somebody I wanted, well, obviously I signed 2 netminders, but I wanted somebody this year or last year, sorry, to start off the whole, Seahawks thing with, someone that wanted to really grab it, make it their own. Look, in Hull we've had a long history with goalies, and obviously we've had some really, really good ones. We've had maybe some not so good ones. And I've never played anywhere where the fans truly get behind the goalie so much. It's just, I don't know what it is. I think going back a long time, I think they had, fans will remember Passy writing them, and then they've had, the goalies as well before that and since, and I don't know why, but they often just become these cult sort of figures. Like I said it last week about Emil, and it's true, but they do, and other fan bases get behind their guys, and probably are very similar. But the goalie situation in Hull was one that I really needed to get right. Geordie came for a couple of games for Leeds when I was there, and obviously in Leeds we had arguably one of the best goalies that's been in the EPL or the second division, whatever you want to call it, whatever it's called. Gozzi's been there for a long time. He's won a lot of stuff. He's proven himself to be one of the best, if not the best. And when Geordie came into Leeds, I didn't know a lot about Geordie. He was obviously a young kid, and I knew he was with Braid, and he was playing sort of the Solway connection and stuff. But the minute I saw him, I just thought, like, he was professional. He came in, he sort of he did all the right things from what I could see. He was warming up properly, and anyway, we ended up going on to win that game. And I mean, we all know at times how hard it is to be, sort of to win a game in Sheffield, especially with the offense that they have. We all know Huey and all that. So yeah, that was immediately when I saw that, I was like, right. I just remembered it. I didn't know at the time that I was going to do this, but I always remember things like that. And the minute it came up, honestly, he was probably the first person that I thought about. And I knew he was sort of on the bubble with the Elite League, like he said. And that we know the issues with that league, but when I was trying to do the deal with Geordie, it was, he wanted to still be, involved in the Elite League and wanted to practice, which, to me, that was a positive. I thought that was great, and I wanted that. Because, again, go back to it, I wanted a goalie that essentially wants to be a goalie. I know it sounds a bit funny, but what I mean by that is, Geordie's a professional ice hockey player. He comes, that's his job. He don't come in, he ain't got a side job. He's not doing this, that, and the other. He is a goalie when he comes, and that's his job, and he's completely immersed into that. And again, I wanted that because I feel like for me, it's the most important position on the ice. You can see it in any league or games. You look at the NHL, and the best teams have the best goalies, and that's just how it is. And again, so I wanted that, and I wanted someone that could, take it on and make it their own. And look, when I first signed them both, I didn't know whether it was going to be Geordie or Curtis. I thought in my head that Geordie was going to be the better goalie, and look, it turned out to be that. Unfortunately for Curtis, he had a couple of stuff go on this year that was out of his control as well. And when you get injured and someone else takes the net and it just plays so well, it's tough for that person to then get back in. And I almost felt sorry for Curtis a little bit because he didn't do anything wrong, but it was just the way it was. There was no way I could take Geordie out. It was at times, I mean, it was crazy. He was saving us in games, and we've talked about it, Connor, at length, haven't we, about sort of how good he was at times this year. And yeah, like, I didn't really answered the question, but for me, look, Geordie, it's funny because historically goalies are weird. the weird creatures. And he is a weird creature, but he's one of the best kids I've met in terms of like he came down here and just completely fit in immediately. Like, you know, all the lads love him. It's, you know, there's just banter getting chucked about, and he's just all, you know, he's just about it, and he's exactly what I want in my best players that I want in this club. I want people that are, you know, not just good players, not just, you know, good at what they do, I suppose, but not just like focused all the time. I want good lads. I want people that can have a laugh and put up with me as well, because at the end of the day, like, I am probably different to many other coaches, I suppose. But it's just the way that I like to do things, and I like to, you know, one thing we've gone on about a lot sort of after the season is, you know, we've talked about at length about, you know, the tough things that happened last year, but you know, Banners on the Wall asked me a question the other week, and it was something I've not been asked yet, and it was what went right this year. And I said a couple of things, but honestly, one of the biggest things that went right was Geordie, and I got that right, and that was, you know, for me, I was sort of proud of what we managed to do in terms of we got Geordie. He's come down here, and for all, you know, he'll answer this, but I'm pretty certain he loves it here. You know, we've tried to make him feel as welcome as possible and part of it down here. And you know, his girlfriend's coming down next year, and look, we're trying to make it like a family feel club, and everyone's welcome, and we can all get along and stuff, and everyone has a laugh. And you know, at the end of the day, that is what we had last year. We had a good room, no matter how bad at times it got. You know, all the lads stuck together. You know, there was no one in that room that sort of, you know, just didn't really fit in. It was a great room, and that's what you need when things aren't going great on the ice. You've got to have something, and we had that, you know, off the ice. And yeah, you know, I've rambled on a bit, but look, Geordie was, you know, completely, you know, what I wanted from my goalie. And, you know, at times we saw some glimpses of what the best goalie in the league looks like. But people have to always also remember Geordie is young, still young, very young for a goalie. He's getting better. Last year was with the Steelers. I think that helped a lot. You know, facing shots off, you know, far better players, and just being in that professional setup, knowing that, you know, that's his job again, like I talked about. He comes, it's his job, he's focused on what he's doing. He can have a laugh off the ice, but as soon as it's game time, he's like a different kid. And that's sort of, again, exactly what I want from my players, because I can have a laugh with anyone and have the most banter literally up until it's time to work. And then everyone that sort of knows me or plays for me, I can imagine they'll say the same. It's quite intense, and it has to be done the right way. You know, and we don't accept anything less, because that, you know, we're here to do one thing, and it's to win and do our jobs. And that's again, you know, what Geordie did. So yeah, Martin, you know, Geordie was great for us, and, you know, we're lucky to have him back.
Certainly so, of course. You know, from mine and Martin's position up in the commentary gantry, you can get a different view, I think, at times, and you can just see, you know, the performance level throughout the season was just absolutely incredible. But Jordan, I just want to throw this one back to you now, and it's something Matty kind of started to sort of edge into a moment ago, and that was about sort of the team itself, and, you know, about, you know, you moving, you know, some family down here as well. And what was it that made you want to come back? And it's sort of a two-part question, really. So I want to know, first of all, what did you expect when you did make the move here? You know, back, you know, just over 12 months, you know, around 12 months ago, when you made that decision to sign with Hull. And then more so, why have you signed on the dotted line again? What is it that makes you want to be part of the Seahawks?
Well, I think last year, the opportunity getting to play pretty much every week was kind of the main reason why I moved down. It was kind of an opportunity where I can actually play And I've said this a few times. You don't get any better unless you play and you put yourself in situations where, you know, you've got to test yourself and you've got to kind of come to the floor and prove yourself. So yeah, it was that was the main reason for me moving down this year. Obviously, experiencing last year, I can see what Matty's building, and that's something I want to be a part of. I believe in what he's trying to do, and I believe in the team and the core group that we've got. I think we can really go on and like push on and really make a mark in the league. And I want to win. I want to win trophies. I want to win games, and that's something that's shared within quite a lot of the guys in the room. So I think that's kind of the main reason why I came back. Obviously, bringing Emma down this year as well kind of makes it feel a bit more like kind of like home. But like Matt said, like I fit in perfectly with that group. We're all kind of the same. We're all a bunch of kind of misfits and all that. But we have a good laugh and stuff. But we all know like when it's time at work, we put the grafting boots on, as Matty always says, get grafting and stuff like that. And yeah, we just get to work and it works well. And I think the pieces that Matty's added and probably will add further down the line, I think they'll all help and will push in the right direction. I think it's just going to keep building from here.
No, I'd certainly agree, and you know, and as you said about the whole culture, and I say the way the squad is building for this year, just looks as if exactly what you've said, that everything is moving that way. That this team will be more competitive next year, certainly. You know, we don't want to, you know, particularly start saying we're going to finish here or here yet, but we know for a fact that this is a different Seahawks team next year. And if teams expect the team that they saw last year, they're in for a mighty shock in this 23-24 season. And part of that is, of course, we spoke about last week on the show, we spoke about the re-signing of Emil, and there's been a lot of investment, you know, in terms of forwards. You know, we think about Bobby and Lee Bonner, you know, re-signing, but at the other end of the ice, and this is some, you know, myself and Matty, and we spoke about it with Deck as well last week, that we were often short benched in one place last year, and that was in the D. And obviously, when you know D men are playing longer minutes, they're getting more tired, and teams find it easier to get shots on your net. So how do you, of course, you're going to be ecstatic, I think, as Matty adds more and more D-men, but how does that affect your sort of thoughts and feelings going into the season, knowing that you won't necessarily have an easier job, but, you know, it's going to be a little bit different in how busy you're going to be this year, perhaps?
Yeah, I like everything that Matty's done on the back end. I think it's going to really help. I think we're all going to help each other. I think obviously Deck's going to feel it not having to play 60 minutes a game. And then obviously I'm not going to have to face as many shots because like you say, like the less D-men you have, the more chances of breakdowns or mistakes. And that's where teams kind of capitalise, especially when you're playing against the top teams. If you look at the times that we played like Leeds and Milton Keynes and stuff like that, we've played them really close. And 90% of the time it just came down to one kind of mistake here or there from somebody. 90% of the time just because it's like tiredness and just playing so many minutes. That's kind of where the difference was in a lot of those games. So I think adding D-men of the kind of proven quality that we've got, I think that's only going to help us. It's going to make my job easier. It means that like I feel a lot more confident in the net, knowing that I can play rebounds and knowing that there's going to be D-men there that can help me out as well as I can help them out. So it kind of works both ways. But yeah, I think it's only going to be better defensively for this year.
Yeah, it sounds really exciting, especially what Matty's trying to build. And the last question for you, well, last question from me anyway, like what are your ambitions and expectations of the year ahead and beyond, Jordan?
Well, I want to win trophies. But yeah, I think we just need to build on what we done last year. Obviously, we missed the playoffs last year. I think that can't happen again. It's just not allowed. For me anyway. That's I want to make sure that we're in the hunt for every kind of competition that we can be in, at least, and just keep kind of building. But I think, like I say, I believe in what Matty's doing, so I think we can just keep building and building, and eventually it's going to become something that other teams can't handle and can't stop.
And of course, with the hopes being to be at that upper end of the table, I've just got stats in front of me from last year, Matty, for goaltenders. And the top five, top six goaltenders in terms of save percentage came from the top five franchises in the national division. And then it's Jordan. It just shows sort of how much of an impact having a an extremely talented netminder can have, doesn't it? And it makes the difference. It makes a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, I think obviously during the season, me and Geordie talk quite a lot, usually after the weekend, about where he is. It was one of them things I kept looking at a lot because I was dying for him to be 90%, and it wasn't really to do with the team or me. It was more for him. And you know what? I think it was just the start that let him not him down in terms of how he played, but just how it was. Like we just
statistics.
Yeah, we just didn't have the numbers there, and obviously like sort of the stats were already skewed so much that it was going to be a tough task to finish in 90%. It was just under. But look, for me to finish anywhere near 90% in a team like ours last year is, I think that's probably it's up there with Gozzi's numbers and Dima's numbers for me, because the shots that he is facing, it's tough to understand, but it's not just shots on goal. It's where they're coming from, and grade A positions, and like Geordie said, when people are getting tired and stuff happens, breakdowns happen, and people are getting, I mean, I can't remember how many breakaways he must have saved this year, and every time, honestly, I was confident on his breakaways. That's one thing he's very good at. And look, he knows where he needs to be better. And I'm sure he's working on everything he can to do that. Every player that plays, whether you're a goalie, D or forward, have got your weak areas and where you need to improve, and that's just what pros do. You have to work hard to improve them areas and make yourself as good as you can. But yeah, look, I think for him to finish where he did, and it's a testament to sort of himself and how he immersed himself into it, and that was why I asked him to sign back pretty much first guy, because I knew I wanted him here, and I want him here for as long as we can keep him.
No, and I'm sure every single Hull Seahawks fan out there will be obviously thanking you for that decision, and teams of other franchises might not be. But one more question. I want to put this out there as sort of in the main feature before we move to a bit of a fun Q&A. This was actually asked as part of the Q&A by Andy Rowe, of course, a huge part of the supporters club. But I thought it was actually a really, really good question. I wanted to hear both of your opinions on it, actually. And it's regarding, of course, the situation with increased imports. And, there was a lot of talk about would clubs go for an import netty. Of course, so start for you, Jordan, but how happy are you that teams are sticking by the seams of it with the British netties and not using one of those free import slots on bringing a netminder in that would essentially, shut out, a British starter?
Yeah, well, I think the whole import goaltender thing's a bit pointless in my view. But yeah, it's good that all the teams are sticking with British goalies, because we've all shown, like, the goalies in the top five. There's a couple other goalies in the league that are good goalies, and we've shown that. So I think if you were to bring in an import and just kind of push them out of the way, that wouldn't really be fair on a lot of the guys in the league, especially like if you look at like Gozzi and Dima. If you bring in an import and try and replace them, you're not going to. Like especially for this league and where it's at, like you're just not going to be able to find an import goalie that's as good as they two are. I think bringing an import netminder in this league is pretty stupid, in my view.
You echo that, Matty?
Yeah, again, like I've spoke on it already, but it's look, for me, like I just think you can put caps on it all you want, but for me, like I just think let it be an option. If people want to go that route, let them do it. But for me, I would never do it. I don't think it improves your team, at all. You've got three imports. If you wanna waste one, then good luck to you. But there's too many good goalies for me in this league that can do, as good a job as any import would do. 90% and above, you should be winning games with that. So again, if you want to bring an import goalie in and sort of waste that spot on a, your potentially power play or whatever, it's up to you. And that's why I think there shouldn't be any restrictions on anything. If someone wants to do that, let them do it. But I don't see it paying off for anyone. I don't think they'll. Thinking about it now, there might be one team this year maybe goes with it. That team won't win the league, so that's it.
Okay, so it's part of the show where will be a regular feature whenever we've got players on here on Hull Seahawks Behind the Curtain. But we're going to have a bit of a Q&A with Jordan. Fans have been by the bucket loads, actually. It's really, really good to see so many people wanting to get involved. Of course, we can't ask everyone's questions, but each week do just keep throwing them our way. So, Jordan, first one, biggest highlight as a Seahawk?
Probably the shutout. Yeah, I think that's you want perfection in the game, so I think a shutout would be pretty good. But the Peterborough game before Christmas, that was a good one. And the Bristol away game, the first win on penalties, that was a good one, that as well.
A couple of close ones there.
Yeah. So there's a lot of good ones in there.
Peterborough for me, I think was brilliant. I think Martin, was it one of your first commentaries as well, just before Christmas, I believe?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was a great game. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, definitely.
Pandemonium up on the gantry.
Went a bit crazy. Yeah, definitely.
Next one. So can you actually hear and feel the crowd, particularly like a home crowd? And if so, sort of, does it have any effect? And it might be a little bit different. Of course, you're not skating up and down the ice. Physical fatigue might not be the thing of adrenaline, but maybe more mental fatigue, perhaps. Is there any difference, maybe home and away, when you got the crowd behind you or against you?
Yeah, no. It depends, obviously, where you're playing. Like if we're playing at Sheffield, it's a bit quieter than, like, say, Peterborough or Bristol, where the fans are right on top of you. I think obviously at home as well, you feel the crowd because they're behind you. Like every other save that you make, there's somebody behind you banging on the drum or banging on the glass or whatever it is, like showing their support for you. So definitely at home you feel the crowd, and I think the crowd's been a massive. And the games that we've won at home, I think the crowd's kind of played its own part in there. Like when that rink gets going, it is a fun place to play. There's nothing funner than playing hockey when a crowd's right behind you. I think from away from home, I like it. I like people being against us because then it's just kind of like proving them wrong. But yeah, just depends on the player, I guess. Some people don't like it, some people do. But yeah, you can feel the crowd. It just depends on the rink and what fans show up on the night.
Talking of rinks, someone's asked the best rink other than the Hull Ice Arena and the worst rink in the National League.
Oh, right, okay. Best one's probably Leeds is all right, but it's freezing cold. That's just not fun. Probably Ice Sheffield, but then that's just because it's big and nice and bright. For the worst one,
a bit of a library.
Yeah, it's a bit quiet, but the actual ice is all right. I think for the worst
gone, isn't it? The worst one's
gone.
The
worst one's gone.
I mean, that's just the disgrace, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Peterborough's up there though.
Yeah, definitely.
Peterborough's right up there. But
right
yeah, Basingstoke was definitely the worst last year. That was just a nightmare, that place.
Oh God.
We've got to say thank them for taking some time out to renovate.
Yeah, seriously. Thank you, lads.
See them back soon. So, do you ever fear a slap shot? And if so, who's in the NIHL is on your mind at times? I know that Callum did actually reply to this on Facebook. Callum Gladding replied Emils. But anyone else in the league that you kind of don't want to be in front of?
Tim Wallace and MK's got a pretty hard one. It's not very, it's different. Like, it's not very fast, but when it hits you, like, it hurts. It's just like brick hard. But yeah, apart from him, you don't really have time to think about it that much because it happens so fast. So yeah, I've not really thought about it, but definitely Emils when he's taking slap shots in training. Like, yeah, he's heard me a couple of times.
We're getting on to some of the more interesting ones now. One for all the home fans. Do you enjoy chip spice?
Was that to me?
No, it's more to Jordan. Of course, he's
of course
spending a lot of time.
I don't mind it. I'm not a big fan of putting stuff on chips. I quite like having chips just plain half the time. But yeah, it's decent. My girlfriend on the other hand loves it though. She is all for the chip spice. So I'm just gonna get
plain chips. Not just plain chips. That is madness.
Well, I'm a goalie, aren't I? So it's not much different.
That's where the weirdness comes out.
Of course, Matt, you did. You were begging to answer that one. Then I'm sure you must do. Hull fans would have you out the arena if you didn't.
You can't have chips without it, can you? It's just you just grow up with it. It's not like a question, is it? If you're getting chips from like a takeaway, it's like guaranteed it's got chip spice on it. So
100%. It's when I moved to Manchester University, I kind of forgot, and first few times I was like, I forgot the chip spice.
Yeah,
I'm guessing it's not really a thing out there.
Same thing happened to me the other way. Like the first time I got a takeaway here, it had chip spice on it. I was not expecting it to have chip spice on it.
Yeah.
None of the lads pre-warn you of that one.
No.
Next one. I'm sure this is someone thinking about maybe your home region. Iron Brew or Buckfast?
Oh. Buckfast is horrible. Like, it's disgusting.
Yeah.
But if you're like 15 and you wanted to just get drunk, probably the best thing you can drink. But definitely Iron Brew over Buckfast, because Buckfast is just disgusting.
Oh, yeah, not good.
I've got to say, I'm a huge fan of Iron Brew.
I love Iron Brew. Yeah,
love a bit of Iron Brew.
Yeah, Iron Brew.
I remember going to Edinburgh and they literally have a full shelf dedicated to it, don't they, in Scotland? It's unreal.
Got like 3 different kinds of it now. They had like fiery Iron Brew a few years ago, which was like spicy Iron Brew. It was just they take it too far sometimes.
Off their heads up down there.
I think it might be. Am I right in saying it's the only country in the world, Scotland, where Coca-Cola isn't the most sold drink?
I think so. Yeah, it's definitely up there.
And a final one. I thought it was so out of the box, I couldn't not include it.
I'm glad I don't have to say it.
Would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? This has come from one of our fans, Matty. You asked for them to send them in, and this is what we're contending with.
Honestly. What? Say that again.
Would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
Probably the horse-sized duck.
Yeah.
I would say
that duck is gonna be a destroyer.
Big duck.
That's gonna snap your head right off in it. Yeah. Tough one. That I'd probably go. Yeah, probably the big duck and just like headbutt it.
Innit?
Yeah, just quick wham. Yeah. Big feet, aren't they? So trip them up.
That is the best question I think I've ever heard. I think it's brilliant. Whoever said that.
What are you doing? What would you rather do, Martin?
I think I'd be petrified of 100 little mini horses.
Martin's petrified of bananas.
We didn't need to put that on the podcast, did we? Yeah, I'd go with the big duck, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, big duck.
Am I the only one taking on 100 duck-sized horses?
Yeah, you're on your own, mate.
They're a lot smaller, though. You can just sort of, this wouldn't really happen, so there's no animal cruelty involved, but you could just kick them away. They're that small.
Just boot them.
End them off.
Boot them off.
Do it up the arse.
Yeah.
But I think that's a crazy way to finish episode 2 here of Hull Seahawks Behind the Curtain. I've got to say, first of all, thank you to Martin for joining us throughout the episode.
Oh, no, it's been awesome. I love it. Can't wait for next week.
Of course, thank you very much for yourself, Matty, for joining us as always.
Yeah, no problem, lads. Thanks for having us. I think next week we've got an interesting duo coming on. So,
Duo?
Yeah, it's going to be... It's going to be a good one.
I feel like I can already guess who that's going to be.
But we'll leave them in suspense, I think. And got to say thanks very much for Jordan for joining us. Absolute pleasure. And I hope you'll rejoin us at some point during the season.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Yeah, more than happy to come on anytime.
So that has been
a good chat.
Episode 2 of Hull Seahawks Behind the Curtain. Do make sure that you are liking, sharing, following us on not only the Hull Seahawks official YouTube channel, we are now also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever else you get your podcasts. So make sure you share this out. Let your friends know. Hull Seahawks Behind the Curtain is the place to be. Thanks very much for joining us. Enjoy and look forward to episode 3.